everyone, it's Angela Stevens with the podcast Refocus with Angela, and I have got the coolest guest you're ever going to meet today. She is so unique that she's actually going to be on both of our Focus podcast and on our Career podcast. So you'll have to check her out. But today we have an amazing event planner. She does weddings, she does parties, she does events, she does all kinds of things. And so we're going to talk to her a lot about how she focuses and how she deals with things when they come up, because I'm sure we've all had those moments that have come up. So help me welcome today. Our guest is Regina Galiyeva, and she is amazing. So Regina, thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So tell me, first of all right, so, I'm going to jump right in and we're going to go on your background, but I'm curious, event planners, wedding planners, what is stressful? Like when it comes to let's say, for instance, a wedding, has there ever been things where they've gone wrong and you've had to bring everybody together and say, okay, let's get together? How do you do something like that? That's my biggest question, and I wanted to ask you that first.
Absolutely. That's a great question. And that's a lot of times people ask the same question because specifically weddings, as you can imagine, this is literally ideally a one day in people's life. So one and only a special day, which is why it makes it very special and very important that everything goes as planned. The flow is very, is what it is going well. And it also a very expensive event. So we want to make sure that people don't feel like things went wrong after the day is over. So it does put a lot of pressure on myself and my team. However, just being in the industry for 9 years, you learn your mistakes, you learn from your mistakes, and it certainly helps to keep the stress levels down because you take a better approach in how you plan things, how you do things. So I like to say we have a secret sauce when it comes to planning and how we execute it in the day of coordination. So, but yes, we of course had very, very stressful situations, and it could be sometimes, I would even say I'll be a little bit biased, but it sometimes it happens from where it is outside of our control. For example, Las Vegas. We do weddings in Las Vegas, and typically the weather is pretty standard in Vegas. We have our hot times and we have our semi-cold times in a year, right? But what nobody talks about is if you plan an outdoor wedding in Las Vegas at some great time of the year, which would be, fall or spring, what people a lot of times don't take into consideration is our gustly winds. So we did have, I would say in the 9 years that I've done weddings, I've had about 3 cases where the wind simply took over. And a lot of times people worry about rain, right? The inclement weather, when you think about it, it's rain, or rarely you do outdoor weddings in the winter, but you can imagine getting snowed in. But that's not something people think a whole lot about. But winds, this is something that Las Vegas can catch you by surprise. And we've had situations where we couldn't fully execute the full setup because of the weather would be completely messing things up. It would be quite interesting experience. We've had situations where just human factor would be involved, where either on the client side something is not going quite wrong. We have, we had a bride just pass out from the fainting from the weather. It was a very hot June day, and she felt she didn't get enough hydration. It's a wedding. There's so much going on, pressure, people pull you left and right, even if you were a bride. So she didn't get enough water during the day and she fainted. So we had to kind of, get all together and make sure that she's okay before we could even think about proceeding with the event. And another example, I will tell you, we've had situations where another human factor, one of our vendors unfortunately had a situation with her vehicle. We couldn't get her to the venue, which has created certain delays, as you can imagine, and the situation had to be taken under control. So how do we handle it? Is do have certain plan Bs for certain situations. we sort of try to discuss, we try to monitor the weather, we try to have plan B vendor situations, and so that we are always prepared. We're prepared to be prepared.
Yes, yes.
So that helps to solve those stressful situations. And a lot of times it's kind of like with any other job, you have to prioritize what's important in the order of importance, what has to be done so that we could move on with the event, to make sure our client is happy, to make sure everything is getting back to normal. So you have to prioritize, you have to eliminate the feelings, you have to eliminate the emotions, and you have to think very, with a very cold mind
Yes,
about
yes.
how things are supposed to do. So you really have to set your focus on,
Yeah.
important things, and you have to take the emotions and feelings aside, which is feelings and emotions are what's our industry is built on. Weddings are all about feelings and emotions and memories.
Of
So
course.
you have to really come to it as a, as an organizer. So you have to eliminate those feelings.
It's so interesting. I was just telling, I was just telling Regina. So I was a single mom for 10 years, but when I got married, my son was 10 and we got married in Vegas. And everyone says, "Did you do the drive-through?" And I said, "No, I didn't do the drive-through." I said, we actually got married at the Paris Hotel and it was lovely. It was beautiful. It was affordable and it was a destination wedding. And we chose to do just family. It wasn't the big event, but it was perfect for us at the time. And it was so great. But we had a wedding coordinator and she made everything perfect. It was really, really great. And so that's a coincidence. Second coincidence is my son just got engaged, and I went to a wedding event, where all of the vendors go and talk about things. And I was listening to a lot of different people and a lot of the couples, and the stress level was so high because you had like the bride wanting something and then the mother wanting something and then the groom even wanting something. And I just felt so sorry for them because, a lot of them, I kept hearing the word budget. And so I want to ask you some advice about that. So and you do events, you don't do just weddings, and we'll get to that in a minute. But if you have a bride that says, I don't have a big budget, what are some of the things that, because we put so much pressure on them, what are some of the things that they can cut back on or be more conservative with? I know they'd love to hear that from you.
Absolutely. We work with different types of budgets for, with our clients, because this is their event and what they're willing to contribute to the event and invest in the event is what's important to us, because a stress-free client is ideally would be a happy client, and we all have a fantastic experience planning the wedding. Stress does come and rise with expenses rising as well, and
Yes.
weddings can catch you by surprise sometimes with some unexpected things you didn't think you would have to pay for. So I always preach that you have to, again, prioritize. You have to prioritize, you have to pick and choose your non-negotiables. For
Yeah.
example, I have to have a religious ceremony, for example, or it has to be, outside, or it has to be at a specific location that is very important to you and your fiance. So those non-negotiables is something that you certainly prioritize. And then you certainly see what things that may not be required. Part of the deal with wedding industry is, wedding professionals are all about all this, bells and whistles, right? We want everything about the special day. It looks beautiful. It creates wonderful memories. But what you see online, on videos, on Instagram, on Pinterest is not always easily affordable. And because of that, it's not always needed. And you see all this advice left and right bombarded. Don't forget to do this. Don't forget to buy this. Don't forget to include this. You really don't have to do this. It is your event, and prioritize what's important. And if you have extra room in your budget, then you can spend your finances on it. But you don't have to really try to put all your eggs in one basket, and the basket is too small to hold the eggs, and you stress out how you're going to, keep it, and nothing is going to break.
That's a great analogy. A piece of advice I gave my son, you could tell me if this is good or not, but I said, why don't you write out a wish list and then cut back from there? Because that way you're not leaving out anything. Is that a good idea? I don't know. That just came from me.
Absolutely, absolutely. The wish list, that's sort of kind of how we also talk. People would normally put on top of their wish list something they do really want, and they naturally would, put them in a priority level. So that's a great idea. From there, you can also learn how much that list, what things cost, and then you can reprioritize and say, hey, I really wanted an elephant jumping from the parachute on my wedding day. It was my number one on the wish list, but I'm realizing it's not quite possible.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. It's absolutely non-realistic idea. So I probably will put it, lower in the list of priorities, and then I'll change it up. So, but yes, it's a great advice.
Okay, awesome. And then the other thing I did notice with other couples was, they were, everyone would ask them, what's your date and what's your budget? And I saw a lot of couples going, we just got engaged, or whatever. And I was telling my son, I said, look, this is your day. Just don't let it be stressful, right? And it's okay to say, I don't have a budget yet. I don't have a date, and then work with. And it's really great to use a wedding coordinator. I highly recommend it because when I got married years ago, not to the one I have, but they didn't exist. A lot of people didn't do that, and now we have that benefit, and it really takes the stress off. And it takes the stress off the parents, especially of the bride. I have a son, but of the bride, it takes that stress off a little bit. I think that's just my thoughts, but that's really great. I do have a question though. So you've got to give us a story, and you can't use mine, but because you do events, we're going to get to that. But in Vegas, has there ever been anything crazy that's happened in Vegas that you've done on a wedding?
Something crazy in Las Vegas that we've done in the wedding. I will tell you that was something unusual for me at that time. It's no longer unusual at this moment because we've done it. It's halfway. So I will tell you. We had a couple who flew in from out of country for their elopement, and they had a couple of friends. So they wanted, at that time, it was sort of kind of a new wave of things, of doing things. And a lot of local couples prefer, not local, I mean, people living in the USA, they prefer more traditional things. Couples coming from outside, out of country, they are looking for those experiences, which I fully support. I think this is fantastic. So we had a couple who flew in from Russia, and they wanted to have a ceremony on the air balloon. So with the air balloon in place, and that was, I believe it was early or late November. I may be wrong, but I just remember it was kind of chilly in the morning still. With us having to be for the air balloon early rise, and they wanted a sunrise wedding. So sunrise on the air balloon, that means
Beautiful.
everybody would have to be, all the vendors and all the guests and themselves would have to be there by roughly 6 o'clock in the morning. I think that was the departure. That means we would have to arrange the bridal hair and makeup at 3 o'clock. So we had our stylist come out there at 3 o'clock in the morning. They stayed at the Wynn Hotel. We had the photographer come out, take pictures. It was fantastic. Then we all head out to the place where the air balloon was supposed to fly out. And so the reason why I said earlier it was halfway through is because unfortunately the weather didn't allow that day to fly.
Wow.
Unfortunately, it's for the plants, unfortunately, but I will tell you, I believe the groom was quite happy because the groom was he was scared of heights. He had that fear. And he was going just because he had so much love for his fiance and she really wanted it. So he was fully devoting himself to this ceremony. But I know he was so scared.
That's
So
beautiful and traumatic all in the same sentence, right? Yeah,
exactly,
that's
exactly.
crazy.
Certainly memorable, right?
Did they do it?
Well, they would. Unfortunately, the air didn't take off. I mean, the weather didn't allow for them to take off. So what we did is we talked to the company who was doing the air balloons, and there were so many air balloons around that time. So there was a beautiful, absolutely beautiful setting. It was like it was in the middle of the city in Vegas, but it was still sort of deserty area with lots of air balloons being half blown. It was just a beautiful scenery to be in. And then what we did is we asked our air balloon operator to keep the balloon up. We went inside the air balloon and had the ceremony there. So talking about a venue, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Um,
just sitting here trying to picture this. This is great.
yeah,
That's really an amazing idea, and I love that. So and it's interesting because what I gather after, Regina and I were talking before the podcast, but really you're the person that keeps everyone calm, right? And you're the one that has to take control and put the calmness in everyone, and even the parents, right? Not the bride, but the parents and all of that, right? So I commend you. And she has a website, and you want to tell us what that website is for the Vegas, the website on that?
surely, yes. Our primary branch, the baby business that I started with 9 years ago, that's our Vegas weddings planner, which focuses on weddings in Las Vegas area. So if you wanted to check it out, you would go straight there. We also have Hawaii weddings planner, which is another branch of the weddings that we do. And we are in the process of starting a non-location based general business, which is called Galiyeva Experience. Don't have the website for that one just yet, but it will combine Vegas weddings, Hawaii weddings. We're currently in Midwest, so we're starting to do events here as well. So it would be a general kind of place for all sorts of events. And we also do wedding planning, I'm sorry, wedding dances, which will be incorporated there as well.
I love that. And I'm just going to tell them because I feel like I have a new friend in the state now because she's moved to Missouri, which I'm located at. But the beautiful thing is you do a lot of video consultations and video planning and things like that. So don't think of her as a destination person. She does everywhere and she's amazing. So definitely check her out. But talk to us a little bit about events. So you do weddings, but what other events do you do?
So at this time, we're focusing on specifically private events for families who want to celebrate and enjoy themselves, gather, make sure that they get together with their family, loved ones, friends. So luckily, post-COVID times, already passed, so we are significantly we're completely back to normal at this point in 2024. So we focus on those special affairs for families. That would be weddings, get-togethers, rehearsal dinners, for any pre-wedding events such as bachelorette parties, bridal showers, bachelor parties, anything of that sort, birthday parties, anything that you can think, private for families mainly, so that if you guys are looking to celebrate uncle's birthday who you haven't seen in 10 years, and it's his his big birthday coming up, and you need assistance, you need venue, you need somebody to organize things, decorate, and provide everything and coordinate, that would be us.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of work when you think of 80th birthday parties. I mean, things like that. It's changed so much. And I think the coolest thing about you is that they can contact you to say, we want to do this, but we'd like some ideas, some interesting ideas of what other people have done versus the traditional. And I think that's what you bring that no one else has. And I think that's really impressive. And the one thing about Regina is you can talk to her. She's so nice and she's so open that you can just have a conversation with her and find out what's worked. And I'm sure she's happy to share experiences that other people have done. And she also does something new that's really cool that I just found out. She also does ballroom dancing, right? Lessons or events. Or do you do ballroom dancing yourself?
I do ballroom dancing myself, and I am an instructor at this time as well.
Mhm.
So I give private lessons. So one of the things that we decided to start developing would be first wedding dances for couples.
Yeah.
Um, I already work with wedding couples on a regular basis for a living. So first wedding dances just comes as a part of it. And something that I would love to assist couples with that because I'm professionally trained and I'm happy to. Wedding dancing, it's something that a lot of people have never done, so they may feel a little bit shy about it, especially grooms.
Mhm.
But I love creating that fun atmosphere. It's a date night for the couple. It's something that they're working together on towards the wedding and makes them even closer. So those are absolutely fun experiences of the overall wedding planning experience as well.
I love it. My favorite movie is Shall We Dance
Yeah.
with Richard Gere. I love it. And it's all about ballroom dancing. So check that out. But I think it's been such an art that we've had in the past that some people still do it, but they haven't done it in a long time. Right. And so if you find yourself in your 50s or 60s, you've been married a long time, that's a great opportunity, right, to reignite that connection with your spouse or your significant other. I think that's something that we overlook because if we don't have it local or we don't know somebody that does it, it brings you together. So I think that's so great, and I just wish she'd been mine when I was there. So that's amazing. Um,
I can add to it just a little bit as
yeah,
well. Just talking about ballroom dancing, it is a couple dance, just like you said. It is something that um, people who have been together for a while that they're looking to reignite to sort of go on some their me time for them together. It also adds a health aspect of it because it's a great workout. You won't ever believe it, but actually ballroom dancing is a very intense workout once you get really into it. And on top of this, it's a great way to socialize
it is.
with just work and families and all kinds of things that happen around us. We sort of kind of get into the routine, and most of the time we end up not really going out. And it's not something that you have to, but if you're looking to socialize, if you're looking to make new friends in the same kind of field that you're interested in, ballroom dancing, those group classes and those practice parties, this is a fantastic option for those couples who are looking to meet new people.
And what happens when you have a significant other, probably men, that say, no, I'm not, like if they're older, they're like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. How do you get them there?
I would say set it a challenge. A lot of men love a challenge, and learning a ballroom dance is a challenge because see, it requires not just knowing step, with your left foot, step with your right foot. It does not have a lot of what a lot of gentlemen are concerned about is that it feels like it's a feminine activity. However, in ballroom dance, there is a leader and a follower, and traditionally that would be, and we have all kinds of couples right now. We have leaders of both genders and followers of both genders. But generally, if it is a, straight couple, we have a husband and a wife, and a husband is a little concerned about this. It's a great challenge to just try because it involves memory. It involves a lot of muscle work you have never done in your life, and you also really step in as a leader, and you learn how to have your follower actually follow. I always say ballroom dancing, it's a lot of like a real life marriage. You
Yeah.
have to know how to lead, and your follower has to know how to follow, and you have to do it in a union so that it comes out very nice and pretty and you both enjoy it. So,
Yes.
which is why ballroom dancing goes so hand in hand with weddings.
Yes.
Because wedding planning is kind of like a dance of sacrifices and compromises for the, general good.
And I would say also, if you are in Missouri and she's in near St. Louis, if you have a spouse that would say no, I would say, or excuse me, let me back up. If you have a husband, we'll say, for example, who wants to surprise their wife, this is a great gift, right? Because every woman would love it if
Brownie points, yes.
if their husband said this, they would be like, wow. Okay. Awesome. Right. Right. I mean, so there's an idea for you, for all of you men that are listening. So this is great. So if you need to plan an event, if you need to plan a wedding, I would highly, highly recommend Regina. Like I said, I wish she'd been mine. And so we're going to talk to her more on our careers podcast about how she got into this. But I have one last question for you. So first, actually two. If you have social media, we'll put the links. Do you have like a at something that they can follow you?
Ideally, they would probably follow me at Vegas Weddings Planner.
Okay.
Same thing as a website, or they could do at Galiyeva Experience. My last name might be tough to spell out, so
And we'll
if you
put a link. We'll put a
that's
link there. And then that way, until your website on that experience is set up, they can at least
yes,
follow you and be connected.
yeah, absolutely.
But she's lovely. So we'll put all of that on there. But I have one last question. So let's say it's one of those days and everything has gone wrong and you're not focused and it's just like you think, how am I going to get all this together? You get in your car or you're on the train or wherever you're at. What is the music or the artist or the genre that you listen to that gives you game on?
That's a very good question. I probably would need to think, but I have a set playlist that I kind of switch it up sometimes. So when I'm having a bad day, it's normally something in either a pop style or something from house music, believe it or not.
Love
It
it.
has it has the beat and has, especially the house style music, it has the beat, it has less words. So I usually try to clean up my brain from everything, all the thoughts that are going and flooding my brain from a bad day. So I would turn on the music. It doesn't have to be anything tunes tunes that is very, kind of dynamic, but
Yeah.
it relaxes me. I would drive in my car and it's just on the back, just playing. So I like
Yeah.
the house music.
My favorite thing to do is when I travel, if I'm in a hotel and I hear a song or some type of music and I love it, I have the app Shazam. I will
Yes.
Shazam it. I have found more great music that has helped me in the last couple of years. So that's another little tip for you. But first of all, Regina, thank you so much for doing this. You are so elegant and so gracious. And like I said, you feel like you've known her for years. So thank you so much for doing this. I graciously appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely.
You're perfect. You were perfect. Okay, so now we're going to switch into careers, and I'm going to ask you, like, how'd you get into this? And it's at the hour. Are you okay?
Yes, that's okay.
It'll only go like 10 minutes. It's real short. We do little clips on this one. So, but I think it's just two ways to put on your
Mhm.
website and say, hey, we were featured here. We were featured. Yeah, that's so. Okay, ready?
I hope that's okay with you real quick. I don't know if it shows it on your end, but I took a screenshot of us talking. Is it okay if I post it like on my Instagram story or something?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Because I took a screenshot
Yeah, just
of
say being interviewed correctly. And what I'm going to do for you, young lady, is because I think bridal season, they're having the bridal shows. I got so many people in the queue for posting them, and I'm going to push you up on there. So you'll be in there in the next week or so. And
Okay.
the other thing that we're doing is we didn't use 140 episodes. Okay. We didn't used to do this. I recorded these all on video. Some of
Mhm,
them only wanted to do voice, and that's
mhm.
great. But now we're posting them all on YouTube that have video. So the fact
Okay.
that we have that, again, that's another outlet for you to use. Okay. All we ask is that you just kind of give us credit, like,
Of
at
course.
time to refocus with Angela, things like that. So, okay. You ready?
I am.
All right, here we go. Hey everyone, it's Angela Stevens with the podcast Refocus Careers. And this career, let me start one more time. Here we go. One, two, three. Hey everyone, it's Angela Stevens with the podcast Refocus Careers. And this podcast is all about helping you find out about different careers, what they're like, what they do. And I've got such an amazing guest today. And she is a wedding planner, she's an event planner, she's even a ballroom dancer instructor. She's got so many talents, and we're going to talk to her about that. But first of all, her name is Regina Galiyeva. She's amazing and so many things that she does. We featured her on our podcast, refocuswithangela.com. So check that out. She's on that podcast as well. But we're going to talk to her more about this today. So, Regina, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So I have to say, I work globally and I caught her accent. And so where are you from?
I was born and raised in Kazakhstan. So
Okay.
my first language is Russian.
Uh-huh.
And this is the accent is what's left out of from what I used to try to get rid of, but now I love it. What's left?
Yeah, no. I love it. I was telling her my main name, my mother's main name was Andrietti. So I and my podcast coordinator, she is from Serbia. So we work globally. So I love the accent. But I want to go back further to you. When you were a little girl or when you were in high school, did you know you always wanted to do this, or what was your dreams back then?
Well, I started with dancing. I believe I saw some dancing on TV when I was 8 years old, and I tried to repeat what people were doing on TV. My mom saw me dancing, and she was the one who kind of started the whole ballroom dance lifestyle for me that I went for many, many years. And being surrounded by the, ballroom dancing, and it's all very elegant. There's those galas, the competitions, the beautiful gowns, decorations, people dancing. I think that sort of set the tone for the life that I always wanted to and I always craved for and strive for. So transitioning into world of events where people gather, the ballrooms are decorated and
Yeah.
people dressed in nice attires for the event, it was just meant to be. I did have some other dreams and aspirations at some point. I went to college for journalism and I wanted to be an anchor one day, to be on TV and report news. However, I will be honest with you, half through my college, I realized I'm not too talented at journalism.
Journalism is hard, and writing, you're writing those press releases, and I get it. Believe me, I was a marketing communications major with a theater as a minor, so I get it. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah, our life changes. I always say people that go to college sometimes may not even work in the degree that they went to school for. So always have an open mind. But tell us, how did you get into, let's start with wedding planning first, because she does event planning and wedding planning and some other things. But let's start with that. If somebody wanted to be a wedding planner today, first of all, what do they have to do to start?
Absolutely. First, you really have to have a strong desire to be in this industry because it sounds very exciting. The movies make it very glamorous, but it is a job, it is a career, and you have to put 200% of yourself, your energy and your time. So you certainly have to have the strong desire, but you can't find out if you have the desire until you actually work in that, right? So I'll tell you that about 20 years ago, roughly 20, maybe a little bit more, we didn't have our industry. The wedding planning was
Right,
mainly
right,
done by families, and there are still some areas and countries and markets, even in the United States, where people do not understand why you would need a wedding planner. We have auntie who
right.
can make cake, we have grandma who will be there to put some flowers and stuff. Why do we need that, right? Well, this is where it comes as an experience for not just the couple, but also for everyone. And if you're getting into this industry, we have so many resources at this time where you can start by learning from schools. There are, you don't have, I believe we even have four-year degrees at this moment, but you can learn. There's so many resources you can start with to learn what this industry is about.
Mhm.
And then I would certainly suggest trying yourself and going and working for established companies so you get that exposure and you can really find out your personal interest in that industry. Maybe you will start as a day of coordinator and then you will transition into planning, or maybe you'll transition into floral department, or maybe you would go to, into photography or things like that. That would be within the wedding industry. But to start, certainly take advantage of the resources that are out there,
Yeah.
get your certificates, and go from there.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that it's hours, right? You're working weekends and you're maybe working. I mean, it's hard to plan your life because you have to put these events first. If you schedule them, you owe it and you have to be present and all in. for those weekend events, wouldn't you say?
I would certainly say that this is not an industry where you can get sick, unfortunately, on the day off. Or even throughout, but of course the day itself is so important. I have a team, and when I communicate to them our dates, I have to ask their 100% confirmation,
Yeah.
and they know that if they don't show up, it is, certainly going to um ruin the plans that we had. So you certainly have to plan out in advance. My life is planned out typically year to 2 years in advance
Yeah.
because we have certain events. So my life is planned around my events, just like in any job. That's okay. But today is July, and I know that in February on the 14th, for example, I'm not available. I know that I'm not available next May on the 25th. You know what I mean? So you have to really devote your time.
Yeah, definitely. And right. And I was just thinking your time is not yours anymore. It belongs to the bride or the person, et cetera, et cetera. So and one thing that I wanted to ask you, I didn't ask you last time, when a bride is getting married, how much time should she have leeway before she gets married? Because I think that's real. I meant to ask you this before, but it's really important because a year and a half, 3 months. I mean, do you have any advice on that?
It's an interesting question, and I will answer it that way. It really depends on where you're from.
Yeah.
Because countries that I'm from, people plan weddings in 2, 3 months.
Yeah.
And things are done completely different. I'm not an expert there, so I'm not going to go that way, but I do know that they plan weddings 2, 3 months. It's not like here in the
Right.
United States where we plan year, 2 years in advance. I do believe the big what's contributed to that is the budget,
Yeah.
because the weddings are quite pricey and not everybody has just laying around the budget for the wedding to go ahead and book everything.
Yeah.
So, but another element of it is being engaged. It's fun. You want to allow yourself to be in that engaged state.
Enjoy it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. But generally speaking, with the time frames in the United States that we're planning, you would certainly plan. Traditionally, couples start planning 9 to 12 months in advance. With lately we see trends that people are looking about 2 years in advance. So it really depends on it's not necessarily availability with venues and vendors, but I do believe it's the family situations. And so, but typically between 9 to 15 months, I'll put it that kind of time frame.
Okay, perfect. And did you know that you wanted to work in weddings?
I didn't. I did know that I loved gatherings and I loved creating events. Even when I was a child,
Mhm.
there's, Christmas, New Year's Eve, or any sort of family events. We would normally gather at home. Where I'm
Right.
coming from, this is typical. So I
Yeah.
loved decorating and I loved creating this atmosphere to make sure everything is ready and looks nice. So I never knew I wanted to pick a niche in weddings, but relocating to Las Vegas, I found myself in the industry. I decided to try myself out, and I realized that this is it. This is all I'm doing for the rest of my life.
I love it. So she does that. All right. So then she also does events. And so tell us briefly, what kind of events do you do?
Absolutely. So we're focusing primarily on private events, special affairs for families. That would include your birthday parties, your reunions, your celebrations of, graduation, any of those kind of situations where people gather, um, birthday parties for your family members who you haven't seen in a long time, and you're all planning this destination travel somewhere to have it combined with a vacation for everyone. So those kind of events that we try to focus on. Also baby showers, bridal showers, anything that is related to families who looking to celebrate, have a great time, and create memories.
Absolutely. So the baby shower, and you think about that, and it's so important because we were talking about drama. Sometimes The grandparents, the aunts and uncles can take over. And Regina is your calm. She is the person you go to that creates the calm in the event. So that's really, really good. So what I have a question. What made you go from doing weddings to just doing events? Because that's two, they're the same, but it's two different areas, right?
Absolutely. This is also our sort of need, there is a business aspect is we want to make sure that we do stay with our families for any of their celebrations. But another aspect of it, believe it or not, when we work with couples for 9 months, 12 months, 15 months, and then the wedding is over and the relationship is sort of over. Believe it or not, but I miss my couples. I miss talking
Yeah,
to them when
yeah.
you talk to them pretty much on a daily basis, and then it's gone, and we don't have that connection. And it's sort of, that missing link that nobody talks about it. Nobody talks
Bittersweet.
about it. The
Mhm.
client is it has gotten married, and they're certainly not coming back to us for their second wedding. Maybe
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have
right,
third
right.
renewal, right? The idea is that we plan it one time. So this sort of led to this, that we want to be available and we want to stay with your family and provide a great service to eliminate any of the stress that comes with any of the event planning. So if you guys been with us for your wedding, we also will be there for when your first baby is born and the second baby is born. And then you guys want to plan celebrations and birthday parties, housewarming parties, things like that.
Yes, definitely. And surprise parties, right?
Surprise parties, absolutely.
Yeah,
Those
exactly.
are the
Okay,
best.
so I'm going to pick your brain just for a second. So, have you had any? She gives a great example on, like I said, the balloon wedding. But have you? What is cool today for surprise parties? Anything that's like the new and different?
Well, I can't tell you that there is much new in that industry, but we've had surprise engagements. We planned those for one person in the party, of course. We've done several surprise engagements for couples who were just traveling on a little getaway to Las Vegas,
Yeah,
and the groom was planning an engagement, and that was lovely. Um, I will tell you, it sometimes they would also want to. We had one couple who planned an engagement and a following very quick marriage at a chapel. So that's one of the routes to go if you're fully confident in your partner that they're going to say yes and going to say yes to get married right away.
right.
Because otherwise it may turn a surprise for
Like
you.
tomorrow, we're gonna get married tomorrow. You good with that? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So those are, I would say, I love them, but at the same time, you have to really know your partner just to make sure you don't go with all these plans and the partner is not ready to get married tomorrow. Maybe she says, "Hey, I want to have my celebration. I want to wear the engagement ring for a couple of months before we get married." So those are just the aspects that you would want to consider before planning the full thing. But engagements, surprise engage, oh, they're always surprise engagement. I mean,
I
ideal. You
I
know.
love that. I love that. So tell us something when somebody decides that they want to have an event, and it can be a reunion, it could be something. Um, there's a lot. Let's take family, for instance. There might be five sisters, right? And all of them want to be in charge. What is your advice to handle that to with kid gloves, right? How do you do that?
Absolutely. So I would say, and it applies to wedding celebration. I talked about it this before. You want to come. This is a real test for families. Whatever event that they're planning is to decide what is important to all of them, not just the one person, but what is important to all of them. And as a family, this is something that they have to sit down and talk, review their options and budget,
Mhm.
and figure out what is the priority here. What is the main reason of this event?
Yes.
What we're trying to get out of this event? Is it so that a lot of people who haven't seen each other get together finally for one celebration, or just, just to see each other, or is it to actually celebrate? Or maybe there's events where you announce your engagement, those kind of things,
Yeah.
or announce your pregnancy.
Yeah.
So what is the goal? Focus on the priority, and you really have to discuss, and of course, who is contributing to the budget, that really matters as well.
So
my big
important.
My big advice, one thing that I would say is what we experience sometimes is where people who are planning as a person from the side, I see that sometimes family members or couples are not on the same page. And it's something that as a service provider and not necessarily a personal family friend, I try not to get involved because this is your event.
Yeah.
So I certainly recommend trying to discuss this between yourselves and then going out and planning it with a goal.
Yes. I think that's great advice because like I said, it's hard when you've got a group of people, everybody's got their different ideas. And again, that is why you want to use someone like Regina, that even she can meet like by video with five of the sisters or whatever and say, this is the best way to go about this. Let us take care of this. You guys bring us ideas. And then you're like the captain of the ship, right?
Yeah, it does sound very fancy, but I will take that role. What I can elaborate on this is when we have those meetings and we have a couple of different opinions, I like to say what worked for us previously and what didn't. Because in the 9 years of planning events, we've had we had so many different ideas that we were trying to execute with different clients, different couples, we work with different vendors. So I certainly can provide a very realistic advice so that it eliminates your guesswork. Will
Yes.
that work? Will it be popular? Will it be, you know what I mean? You go to a bartender and you ask, what's the popular drink here? So people, because he knows, you go to a photographer and say, hey, we've never posed. Can you tell us which poses look nice so we can do them so our pictures come out well? So you come to us with ideas and we will tell you this will work, but this probably won't. And this idea probably doesn't contribute to the overall experience. So you may not, focus on that now, maybe later. So certainly experience factor here is important.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say that you can go to someone like Regina and say, this is what we had in mind, and have an open mind because she might say, that's great, but let me tell you something that might work better.
Yes.
Right. And so that's always really good. So, well, that's perfect. And then, so by the way, so you've done weddings, you've done events, you do ballroom dancing, you actually do a lot of consulting over video, right? If a bride and groom want to talk to you, you can set up a charge consultation for them, walk them through them, and if they are not looking for a wedding planner or an event planner, you can at least book a session with her where you get some feedback, and that is valuable, right? So, and like I said, she can go through her charges with you. I could sit here and brainstorm with you all the time because I love doing this, but event planning, it's not for everyone, right?
Absolutely. Event planning, it requires a lot. It's a whole separate job. So I like to tell my clients that, and you brought up the video meetings, those are crucial. Those are very important because we can easier get on the same page with clients about any of the questions versus emails or phone calls. We do a lot of planning via those options as well, but video calls, they help understand, and because I can see my client's reaction and I can see what's going on that side to sort of get closer to what we're all planning together.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, with planning, it is, like I said, a second job. So I like to tell my clients when I'm hired, it's usually for those busy professionals or
Yes.
people who have a first job, maybe second job, maybe pets, kids, parents to take care of, and they don't have time to sit around and organize and do all the guesswork, compare reviews, and just learn from so much advice, sometimes incorrect advice, being bombarded from all the social media that they see.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So
That's
absolutely.
right. And again, I go back to say that Regina is your calm. She kind of takes everything down, and no matter what you're working on, it's worth a phone call. It's worth a consultation with her. And we'll put the notes on this podcast. But lastly, I want to ask you a question. How did you get into ballroom dancing?
I got into ballroom dancing when I was a child. I just wanted to dance. I watched something on TV, tried to repeat that, and my mom took me to the ballroom dance school. I did want to try ballet, but in the town that I'm from, it's such a small town, only 25,000 people in a different country. We didn't have ballet schools, but we had ballroom dance schools. This is how I got into it, and I grew up pretty much on the stage. So
Yeah.
I used to perform and I loved it. I loved dressing up, doing little makeup as a little girl, and would go and do waltzes and performances and acting. So that's kind of how I got into it. And I'm never looked back. I did not
I
leave the industry at all.
I love it. I'm so impressed with you. And like I said, we've never had anyone on here like Regina, and I've learned so much. Basically, on the event side and also on the wedding planner side, we're going to put her links on here. But again, she is also on the Refocus with Angela podcast, and she had a great interview there. So check her out. I think you're going to be so excited when you meet her, have a chance to talk to her, and get a feeling of what she's like as a person. Because again, she's been doing this a long time, right? And as I always say, when I got married in Vegas for the second time, when my son was 10, it was so easy. And the stress was gone because I had let someone else take the reins and just help me walk through that. And that has been extremely important. And I look back on it, my pictures were great. The flowers were great. All of these things is what you are specialized in, and it's what you do, right?
That is correct. That's the whole experience that we try to give our clients. And exactly just like you said, so that you just sort of come in and experience your special day while we take care of all the details.
I love it. I said last question, but one last question. If someone were to schedule a meeting with you, and let's just say it doesn't have to be a wedding, it may just be an event. What are the things that you would like for them to have prepared that can make that conversation go more and be more productive?
Typically, there's just a few basic questions. One of them is very tough because a lot of people don't know it yet. But the basic details that the couples would want to prepare on, not couples, if you're planning just an event, is the date of your event.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what sort of a guest count that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
General vision, what are you into? Are you into event that is outdoor by the pool, on the beach? Do you want it to be in a destination or in a banquet hall,
Yeah,
things like that? And finally, if there is an ideal budget that you would like to stay within, just to start, once we combine those 3, 4 elements, it will give me a solid idea where we can start and what advice I can even give.
love that. And it is more productive for everyone, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. That is the point. A lot of times people feel unsure or insecure a little bit about little details because they don't know what they don't know themselves yet, right? But
Exactly.
to start with, there's absolutely you can start and you say, "Hey, Regina, I have $1 and I have 100 people and I would like it to be in the Bahamas." We got the answer right away. Probably not going to happen. But we can
Right.
venture off from there and see again what are the priorities, and then we'll focus further on that.
I love that. I love that. Well, first of all, Regina, what a pleasure it's been to have a conversation with you both on this podcast and on the other podcast. You are amazing. She's delightful. If you've never met her, schedule an appointment with her. She will put all of your nervousness away. She'll just take that away and give you that calmness. So again, I graciously thank you for your time today and being on this podcast.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much as well.